It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Welcome back to Declare Your Independence with me, Ernest Hancock, and my very special guest today, Karen Kwiatkowski, Lieutenant Colonel, retired from the Air Force in the Pentagon, where she was writing from the inside what was going on and kind of sneaking it out there. She was, after you retired, I think you published in Salon.com and American Conservative Magazine. You had some stuff, the Ohio Beacon Journal. I mean, you were really out in these guys. Was it right before we actually invaded Iraq, and you still continued to write after, or did you make it before we actually invaded?
Well, I was still. Actually, the weekend they invaded Iraq was my last week at the Pentagon. I was out processing then. And as soon as I was still on like terminal leave, as they call it, getting paid. But at that point, I went public with Lew Rockwell. I went with my own identity. But I initially, for the 8 months prior to that, from the fall of 2002 until March of 2003, that's when I was sending Soldiers for the Truth, a Hackworth page. I was sending him anonymous articles, and I originally had sent those to Lew Rockwell. At the very beginning, because I did want an outlet, and I felt like somebody had to be, saying this stuff. And I asked him for anonymity, which is not part of, Lew Rockwell's policy was not to do that. And so then I went to Hackworth, and Hackworth immediately didn't know me from Adam, of course, and immediately accepted those weekly articles that I sent to him. And a lot of them were in like a kind of a dark humor, sarcastic, whatever. They were kind of.
Let the audience know who Colonel Hackworth was. What the prominent role did he play?
He's a great soldier, most highly decorated living soldier that we had for a while there, and he passed away several years ago. He served in Korea and Vietnam and a bunch of other things, and just a great soldier, a soldier's soldier, and very outspoken after he retired, and probably before. But after he retired from the military, he kind of in a way like Smedley Butler had done, started to think about the misuse of the military that...
war's just a racket.
Yeah, war's a racket. And I think Hackworth got that. He had huge credibility, had a great network of people still in the military, of course, not just in the Army, but in all the services, and of course, many retired people who were working in government. So he was really well connected, and he published his website, Soldiers for the Truth, would publish lots of things that were really geared towards helping soldiers by telling the truth. In a way, he was kind of like, in some ways, he was like Julian Assange. Julian Assange wants to, WikiLeaks publishes things for transparency of government. Well, Hackworth wanted transparency in the military process, in particular when the military is doing things that's really stupid for its people, for its soldiers. And he would publish things about how, the lack of body armor and just all kinds of stuff, poor training, all kinds of things, and people from all over the military would send him stuff, so he was in the know. Well, when he got my submissions back in August of 2002, he didn't know me. I'd never dealt with him before. I'm a female. His policy on women in the military was not what many people would call open-minded, and yet he immediately understood what I was saying and accepted my work, gave me anonymity and that kind of thing. And the reason he did that, and I didn't know it at the time, but the reason he did that was because he was hearing the exact same things I was observing. He was hearing that from all his friends in the Pentagon too, and he understood what was going on with the neocons, the hijack of our foreign policy, and the warmongering that was being done very aggressively.
Well, the work that you were submitting to him from being in the Pentagon,
and working for Bill Luty, who was one of the Bill Luty, had been sent over to man up to lead the Near East South Asia shop. And he came to us from Dick Cheney's office. That's where he came from. He's Dick Cheney's boy. And, so this whole process was, let's grab hold of the reins of the war machine, and let's point that war machine at our enemies, not America's enemies, okay, but the neocons' enemies. And that primary one was of course, Saddam Hussein. Ultimately, of course, the neocons want to take down and remake Iran in their own image. And I don't really see that happening, but certainly that is the long-term agenda. And
they're willing to do any and all crazy stuff to make that happen if they think they can get away with it.
Lie, cheat, steal, and murder. This is what they will do to get what they want, and of course they will, because they don't bear the burden of it. You know, none of the neocons have kids in the military. They got kids. They got plenty of kids, but they don't serve. Okay, they don't take those risks, and they themselves don't take the risks. So it's Midwestern hicks, you know, that go into the military. They get to die for the neocons, and that's how they like it. And they still like it that way. When we get to our later topic of what's going on now, it is the same, neocon agenda, which embraces both political parties.
Okay, now let's go ahead and talk about during the time, and because it relates to what's going on in North Africa now. As you're sitting there in the Pentagon, you're a smart woman. You saw what was going on. There is a drumbeat to war, and they're going to direct it wherever they want. And you're getting the intelligence, and you're putting it together, and you're sending up, and no, this isn't vetted, and that is, and they're just saying and doing speeches and redoing whatever you're giving. You know, it's a bunch of lies anyway.
Yeah, so, and it's not just it's not just that. It's not just that they redo the work, but there was a party line that if anyone, not just me, but lots of people, I sat next to one of the guys who was the head of the Saudi desk. He did for Saudi Arabia what I was supposed to be doing for North Africa, writing up these background papers, policy guidance, and stuff like that. And this guy was told repeatedly, called down to the office, you can't say this, you have to write this. It has to be done this way, because there was a control in the inputs, which would, of course, give them the desired outputs.
I tell you what this reminds me of. There was I don't want to go too far off beam, but I want to make sure I make this point. Jesse Ventura came to Arizona to do a 9/11 thing, and so, that's right, you were in the Pentagon when it got hit, so, we might get to that.
Yep.
But what happened was he was talking in the Senate Majority Caucus room, and we were videotaping, and he was talking about, as governor, the CIA had embedded people in the state capitals.
My goodness.
They brought him down to the basement. He had a schedule when he first, started being governor, right after his inauguration and so on. And he said, they brought me down, and there's it was like a dozen or more guys in this little basement conference room kind of deal. Asked him a lot of questions. He didn't go into what they were talking about. But the bottom line was he's asking all his buddies, SEAL people and military and whatever, what the heck was that about? And he goes, I guarantee I know what they were asking you. They wanted to know how in the heck you got elected. Because it was like the fall of the Berlin Wall kind of thing. I didn't see that one coming, okay? So they're worried about, what the heck does the CIA... So he goes, look, there's CIA... Well, as we do a lot of different legislation that especially when it involves... Here in Arizona, we have a gold medallion that's commemorating our 100-year centennial. That's February of this next year in 12. So we wrote legislation and got it through. The Libertarians kind of behind the scenes thing got it through. Janet Napolitano signed it that 100%, 0.999 whatever, pure gold, silver, and copper medallions in sufficient quantity to supply all public demand are going to be minted here in Arizona this year. Well, we knew. Now, this was in 07 we started doing this. We knew little CIA, Geneva-connected, Central World, whatever guys weren't going to like that. And we came across this, and it's kind of this policy-focusing thing. Same things happening in the Pentagon. And we're going to get back to it with Karen Kwiatkowski when we come back. We are inundated.